She's beautiful, confident, magnetic, maybe even the type of woman every guy stares at when she walks by. But here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Not every woman is built for a real relationship. Some bring chaos wrapped in charm. Some are only sweet when it serves them. And some will take everything from you: time, energy, trust, and leave you worse than they found you. So today, I'm breaking down 7 signs that a woman might be emotionally unsafe for a serious relationship. Not based on bitterness, based on patterns, real stories, psychology, life. Pay attention, because if even one of these shows up early, it's not a coincidence. It's a warning. Let's get into it. It always starts with something small. A sarcastic joke that feels just a little off. A glance that lingers too long with an eyebrow raised. A playful insult disguised as flirtation. And you, trying to be chill, laugh it off. You don't want to look soft or overreact. But deep down, something doesn't sit right. Because that small moment didn't feel playful, it felt like a poke. A test. And in many cases, that's exactly what it is. Some women, whether they realize it or not, test men by seeing how much disrespect they can get away with early on. Not in some evil, manipulative way, but as a way to measure your emotional strength. Your backbone. Your response. They want to know whether you'll challenge it or ignore it. Whether you'll speak up or stay quiet. In the moment you choose silence to avoid discomfort, they take mental note. It's not always conscious, but it's real. One guy I worked with, Timur, met a woman who was gorgeous and sharp. On their second date, she made a remark about his clothes. He brushed it off. Then she joked about how he wasn't alpha enough. He laughed again. On the surface, it all looked harmless. But as the weeks went on, the comments turned colder, sharper, more public. She'd mock his ideas in front of friends. She'd correct him mid-sentence like a teacher scolding a student. And when he finally brought it up, she said, "You're too sensitive." "I'm just honest." But it wasn't honesty, it was slow erosion. And he knew it. He just didn't know how to stop it. He thought that being understanding would win her over, that staying calm would earn her softness. But in reality, it made her lose respect. Because when a woman sees that her words have the power to shrink you, she doesn't feel closer, she feels bigger, superior. And that power shift kills attraction fast. Disrespect doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it's a whisper in a compliment, a twist in the tone, a dig behind a smile. And if you're the kind of man who lets those moments slide, thinking they'll go away on their own, they won't. They multiply. Not because she's cruel, but because you've shown her your line is easy to cross. You've trained her to believe that she can chip away at your confidence and still keep your company. That she can test your limits without ever reaching them. And the longer it goes on, the harder it is to reclaim that balance. So what do? You don't explode. You don't lecture. You don't beg for her to talk to you better. You simply say it once, directly, calmly, "That's not how I speak to someone I respect. And I expect the same." And if she rolls her eyes, minimizes it, or pushes back, you already have your answer. You're not her equal. You're her emotional experiment. The man who stays in the room where he's slowly being shrunk is the man who forgets his own size. Don't be that man. If she starts with disrespect and you meet it with silence, you've already lost more than her approval. You've lost your edge. You're with her now. You're showing up, giving your time, investing your energy. But something doesn't sit right. She says she likes you. She even acts like it. But then you look at her Instagram, and it's curated for maximum male attention. Posed pictures, seductive captions, flirty replies. And when you bring it up, she calls you insecure. Says you're overthinking. But it's not about jealousy. It's about energy. It's about pattern. Because some women aren't looking for love. They're looking for a spotlight. They collect attention like trophies. And once they have yours, they still need more. Not because you're lacking, but because they are. When a woman is addicted to male validation, no amount of affection from you will ever feel like enough. You could worship the ground she walks on, and it still wouldn't fill the void she carries inside. Because she's not trying to bond. She's trying to feel seen, desired, chosen, not by one man, by all of them. The more she posts, the more she craves that next hit of dopamine. The heart emojis, the flame reactions, the random messages from strangers who make her feel important, even if just for a second. And when you ask her about it, she'll flip the narrative, tell you you're too controlling, that you don't trust her. But it's not about trust. It's about standards. I once worked with a guy named Alex. He dated a woman who told him from day one that she was loyal, but loved attention. He thought it was harmless. But every week, she posted more provocative stories. He met back every guy who replied. And when Alex finally said it made him uncomfortable, she said, "You're supposed to be confident. Real men don't care about that." That line hit him hard. He started questioning himself. Am I being too sensitive? Am I insecure? But the truth was, he wasn't weak. He just wasn't blind. He was watching the woman he cared about feed off other men's attention, while calling it harmless fun. And he started to realize something painful. Her loyalty wasn't to him. It was to her own ego. A woman who's truly ready for something real doesn't need constant outside stimulation. She's selective with her energy. She posts, but she's not performing. She engages, but she doesn't flirt for sport. She chooses you fully and proves it not with words, but with her focus. But if you're with someone who's always in the emotional spotlight, always needing more eyes on her, more praise, more admiration, then no matter how much you give, it'll never feel like enough. Not because you're lacking, but because you're trying to love someone who lives for applause, not depth. And the applause always fades. At first, you think she just feels deeply. She reacts strongly to little things, but you assume it's because she's passionate. You tell yourself it's intensity. It means she cares. But after a few weeks, you notice something unsettling. Her emotions aren't just part of her personality. They dominate the relationship. Every serious conversation gets hijacked by her reactions. She tears up when you set a boundary. She shuts down when you bring up something she doesn't want to hear. She gets cold, distant, or even explosive, all to shift the energy away from what's really being discussed. Slowly, without noticing it, you stop bringing things up. You tell yourself it's not worth the drama. You become careful with your words, cautious with your timing, always waiting for the right moment to say the simplest truth. And before long, you're not being honest anymore. You're managing her. You're avoiding tension at the cost of your voice. This is where a lot of men get trapped, not by abuse, but by emotional chaos disguised as sensitivity. It feels like walking a tightrope. One wrong step, and the peace vanishes. I remember one guy. His name was Roman. He told me how his girlfriend would go silent for hours if he said something she didn't like. No yelling, just total shutdown. If he brought up a problem, she'd suddenly start crying and say, "I guess I'm just not good enough for you." And that phrase was a hook. It made him feel guilty, like he was being too hard on her. Like she was the victim and he was the one being unfair. But what was really happening was this. She was using emotion to avoid responsibility, to dodge clarity, to turn every issue into an emotional chess match that he never asked to play. This kind of woman doesn't want resolution. She wants control of the emotional frame. If she controls the tone, the timing, the vibe, she controls the outcome. And most men, trying to be kind, fold under that weight. They think being strong means absorbing her emotion and sacrificing their own clarity. But that's not strength. That's slow erosion. That's losing your voice in a relationship that rewards silence and punishes truth. Real emotional maturity isn't about crying easily or reacting loudly. It's about knowing how to hold space without turning every moment into a storm. A woman who values connection doesn't weaponize her pain. She shares it to be understood, not to dominate. But if every emotional reaction feels like a trap, if honesty becomes dangerous, if your truth becomes her trigger, then you're not in a relationship. You're in emotional captivity. You can care for someone deeply and still walk away from emotional chaos. You can love her pain and still refuse to let it guide your decisions. You can be empathetic and still draw a firm line when her emotions become tools to silence you. That line is where you protect your sanity, your masculinity, and your right to show up as your full self. She says all the right things. That she's tired of casual. That she wants something real. That she's not like the others. Her words feel sincere. Her presence is warm. Her eyes soften when you talk about deeper things. And for a while, you think you've finally found someone who's ready. Ready to build, to grow, to commit. But then things start to shift. Not suddenly, but in small, confusing ways. One day, she's fully present. The next, she pulls away. One week, she wants to talk about the future. The next, she says she feels pressure. And you're left wondering, what changed? The answer is hidden in her actions, not her words. Because this kind of woman is emotionally split. She wants the feeling of love, but not the responsibility of it. She loves the emotional high of early connection. She thrives on the intensity, the attention, the closeness. But when the relationship starts to ask for maturity, communication, structure, consistency, she emotionally checks out. Not because she doesn't care, but because she doesn't know how to hold it. She was never taught how to build something stable, only how to feel something intense. I remember a man named Leo. He met a woman who seemed perfect. She was kind, funny, emotionally open. She told him she wanted a real connection. Within weeks, they were spending all their time together. Everything felt electric. But the moment Leo brought up something long-term, where they were headed, what they were building, she froze. She said she wasn't sure, that she needed space to breathe. So he backed off, gave her time, and she came back, then disappeared again. This happened 4 times in 6 months. Each time, she cried, said she was confused, said she didn't want to lose him. But she never moved forward. It wasn't sabotage. It was emotional immaturity. This is what happens when someone craves connection but fears structure. She loves what love feels like, but not what love requires. She wants to be chosen, but not to choose. She wants to be loved deeply, but doesn't want to be held accountable for how she loves back. And if you're a man who leads, who builds, who creates stability, you'll constantly feel like you're dragging a relationship uphill. You'll start to wonder if maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're too serious. Maybe you need to give more space, be more patient, carry more of the weight. But you're not the problem. You're just playing a role that she's not ready for. And no amount of patience will change that. Because the truth is, maturity can't be forced. It's not something she can give you just because she wants to. She either has it or she doesn't. And if she doesn't, she will burn your time without meaning to. The most dangerous people are not the ones who lie to you. They're the ones who lie to themselves and drag you into the confusion. You'll think you're building something, when really you're just circling around emotional avoidance. That's not partnership. That's emotional limbo. And the longer you stay, the more you lose your fire. A woman who's ready for real love shows it in how she holds the hard moments. She communicates even when it's messy. She shows up even when she's scared. She might not have all the answers, but she takes ownership of her impact. If she can't do that, you're not in a relationship. You're in a dream you're building alone. She compliments you in public, smiles when you speak, laughs at your jokes, touches your arm, posts you on stories. From the outside, it looks like she adores you. Even you believe it at first. But then come the small digs, the moments when she dismisses your ideas, the way she interrupts you when you're sharing something serious, the way she listens without actually hearing. She might not be loud about it, but you feel it. A quiet shift, a drop in how she looks at you, a sense that, underneath the surface, she doesn't actually take you seriously. And here's the trap. Women like this can be incredibly charming. They're warm, playful, even affectionate. But affection is not respect. Attention is not admiration. A woman can want your presence without valuing your leadership. She can love how you make her feel, without loving who you truly are. And the worst part? She might not even be doing it on purpose. Because for some women, it's never been about you. It's about what you provide. The comfort, the security, the reflection of herself in your eyes. I worked with a guy named Damien. Smart, grounded, great career. He met a woman who seemed perfect. She was supportive, kind, and told him she was proud of his ambition. But as time passed, he noticed a pattern. Every time he'd bring up a new idea or project, she'd smirk or say, "You sure that's your thing?" She'd joke about how he dressed, how he talked, how he took things too seriously. But when he asked her to stop, she'd say, "It's just banter, don't be soft." He didn't realize it at first, but slowly her words were eroding his confidence. And when he needed support the most, she wasn't lifting him, she was standing just close enough to watch him fall. That's what a lack of respect feels like. Not always explosive, not always cruel. Sometimes it comes dressed as playfulness. Sometimes it hides behind fake concern. But you know it by how small you start to feel in your own skin. A woman who respects you doesn't try to make herself feel bigger by shrinking you. She doesn't challenge your masculinity with passive insults. She doesn't make you feel like your ambition is annoying or your discipline is boring. Respect is what happens when admiration meets humility. It's when she doesn't always agree with you, but she listens. It's when she disagrees and still honors your presence. A woman who respects you wants to understand how you think, not just prove she's smarter. She challenges you without trying to overpower you. And when you lead, she doesn't compete, she supports. But if you feel like you're constantly explaining yourself, constantly defending your decisions, constantly trying to prove that you're worthy of basic appreciation, you're not being loved. You're being tolerated. Or worse, used. Real love without respect doesn't last. And the longer you stay in a dynamic where your value is questioned, the more you begin to question it yourself. That's how strong men lose their edge. Not because they're weak, but because they gave someone the power to define their worth. If you have to convince her to admire you, it's already too late. Respect can't be demanded, but it can be lost, and when it's gone, it rarely comes back. Some women say yes to everything. They agree, they smile, they follow your lead without resistance. No tension, no questions, no pushback. And at first, it feels like a gift. After all, who wouldn't want someone so easy to get along with? She's affectionate. She responds quickly. She mirrors your energy. Everything moves fast, smooth, effortless. But eventually, something feels off. You don't know why at first. You just feel a distance. A kind of emptiness behind the connection. Like she's showing up, but not really choosing you. And that's because some women don't say yes out of clarity. They say yes out of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of silence. Fear of sitting with themselves. These are the women who dive headfirst into anything that feels like closeness, not because they value the man, but because they need the distraction. It's not about you. It's about avoiding themselves. I once coached a guy named Pavel. He met a girl who seemed like a dream. Beautiful, warm, affectionate. By the end of the first week, they'd already spent 5 nights together. She told him she never felt this way before. She even hinted at moving in within the first month. It felt exciting, almost magical. But one night, he looked through her old Instagram stories and realized she had said the exact same things to her last boyfriend. Same emojis, same phrasing, same pace. And suddenly, everything felt fake. Not malicious, just rehearsed. When a woman says yes too easily, without boundaries, without thought, it's usually not about how special you are. It's about how quickly she needs to fill the emotional space she's afraid to face alone. And that kind of need doesn't build love. It builds dependency. A woman like that won't grow with you. She'll cling to you. She won't challenge you or sharpen you. She'll drain you quietly, with sweetness. She'll become a shadow of your energy, rather than a mirror of your values. There's nothing wrong with warmth or openness. But when someone gives themselves away too quickly, too fully, too easily, it's often a sign that they haven't built a strong relationship with themselves first. And if she hasn't done that, she can't offer you real intimacy, only proximity. She'll be there in body, but not in depth. She'll agree with your every word, not because she believes it, but because she's afraid of what happens if she doesn't. A woman with value has standards. She takes her time. She might love deeply, but she chooses carefully. She's not quick to call someone her person, because she understands what that title means. And when she says yes, it's rooted. It carries weight. It comes from her knowing who she is, and what kind of man deserves her presence. So when you meet someone who seems perfect, who rushes in without resistance, without edges, without moments of pause, ask yourself, is she truly into me, or just afraid of the space between people? Because if she's trying to escape loneliness, your love won't save her. It'll only serve as her distraction until the silence catches up again. She's always free, always down to mate, always replying fast. She never says no, never pushes back. She seems perfect on paper, no drama, no chaos, always there when you call. But after a while, it hits you. She's physically available, but emotionally absent. She's around, but never truly with you. And that absence doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just whispers. In the way her eyes glaze over when you talk about something important. In how her affection feels automatic, not intentional. In how she laughs on cue, but never asks follow-up questions. It's like dating someone who's in the room, but somewhere else entirely. At first, it feels easy, peaceful, no friction. But that's exactly what makes it dangerous. Because what you're dealing with isn't connection. It's convenience. She's not choosing you because she sees something deep in you. She's staying because it's comfortable. Because the routine is simple. Because she doesn't want to face the emotional work of being alone. And slowly, you realize you're not building a future. You're just filling time. I remember a guy named Kirill. He was dating a woman who never complained, never argued, never made things hard. But something always felt off. He told me, she's sweet, but it's like I'm alone in the relationship. She never asked about his day. never remembered the things that mattered to him. She gave physical affection, but not emotional presence. And the more he gave, the less he felt seen. Until one day, he realized he was in love with a silence that smiled back. And when he ended it, she didn't cry. She just said, okay. Like it was just another Tuesday. Some women aren't built for real presence. Not because they're broken, but because they've never learned to bring their full self into a relationship. They show up in body, but not in soul. They're agreeable, polite, even caring, but only on the surface. And when things get deep, they vanish behind routines and empty gestures. You won't find drama. You'll find a quiet absence that leaves you feeling like you're giving love into a void. Real connection isn't always loud, but it's alive. You feel it when someone listens with their whole body, when they remember what matters, when they reflect your energy back, not just with words, but with intention. A woman who is truly present will challenge you. She'll hold you. She'll respond, not just react. But a woman who is emotionally distant will keep you in a loop, feeling like something's missing, but never quite sure what. And the truth is, it's her. Her depth. Her willingness. Her full presence. Being available is not the same as being committed. Just because she shows up doesn't mean she's truly with you. Sometimes, the ones who never leave your side are the ones who were never there to begin with. And the sooner you feel that truth, the faster you reclaim your time. Not every woman is meant to be kept, no matter how attractive she looks or how good things feel in the beginning. Sometimes what looks like chemistry is just chaos in disguise. And sometimes what feels like ease is actually emptiness wearing a smile. The signs are always there. Quiet. Subtle. But they speak, if you're grounded enough to hear them. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever seen these signs in someone you dated? Or maybe you missed one and paid the price later? Drop your experience in the comments. What would you add to the list? And if this made you rethink even one past relationship, maybe it's a sign to stick around. Because this isn't about judging women. It's about protecting your peace and becoming the kind of man who never settles for almost. See you in the next one.